Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is Steve Namaseevayum. I'm the Senior Director for our Supplier Relationship Management team here at iPass. Today I'll be giving you an update on the current status of the network and talking to you about upcoming footprint as well. Okay. Just a couple of housekeeping items. In terms of questions, there is a Q&A feature on the On24 screen that you'll see at the bottom, so I'll deal with those at the end. And anything else, feel free to contact me or your iPass account manager at the end. Thank you. So first and foremost, I'll just give you a brief overview of what iPass does before we jump into the actual network update. So in case for those of you that don't know, iPass is the global mobile connectivity leader. Our strategy, pretty simply, is to provide unlimited, everywhere invisible connectivity. We have the world's largest Wi-Fi network. So as you can see, we currently advertise 60 million plus hotspots across 120 plus countries. We have 160 network partnerships. We are virtual in the sense of the network. We're a software company. Our technology platform is called iPass Smart Connect. We're headquartered in Silicon Valley, California, and we've been public since 2003. Okay. I also just want to provide a couple of definitions around hotspots, how we categorize them. So by commercial hotspots, we're typically talking about a public venue, something such as an airport, a hotel, retail venue, coffee shop. A community hotspot, as it denotes, is a residential property, somebody's home. Typically what you find is the access point, the piece of equipment inside the home that's broadcasting the Wi-Fi signal. There are two signals, two SSIDs, one of them for the home user, the other one is for the public. Okay. And then our final categorization is open access. So iPass has developed technology which allows us to curate in free Wi-Fi or amenity Wi-Fi. So what our iPass Smart Connect platform can do and our connection technology do is figure out, okay, there is a free hotspot within range, and we can bring that into the network as well. Okay. Moving on this slide, I'm just showing you the growth of the iPass network over the last 3 years. So we've gone from just north of 2 million hotspots to just north of 60 million hotspots today. And then on this slide, it's giving you the global map representation, so you can see how many hotspots we have across the various continents. So in North America, where we had the most, we're in excess of 35 million hotspots. In Europe, nearly 21 million hotspots. In Asia, you can see just above 1.6 million hotspots. And South America, nearly 1.6 million. And we also have several 100,000 hotspots across the Middle East and Africa. And then also in excess of 1 million hotspots in Australia and Oceania. Now, I know we've talked a lot about the numbers, but I do think it's important to stress that iPass does have a lot of strategic, important locations as well. So when it comes to airports, for example, we have in excess of 800 airports around the globe. We do measure things such as our penetration to the top 100 airports. I believe we're in excess of 90% coverage across the top 100 paid airports. In in-flight Wi-Fi, we also have approaching 3,000 jets that we're enabled on. It's an extremely important part of our business. We consider it very strategic. It drives a lot of usage. Our customers find it a very useful service. Okay. In excess of 800 planes, we've seen this area grown massively. We've actually had trains in the service for a long time now, across various markets. Again, it drives a lot of usage. Local businesses, SMBs as they're sometimes termed, small medium businesses as well. We have in various markets, we're getting to a point where it's actually quite mature in this space, similar to the community hotspots on the right as well. So we're effectively getting this impact of a blanket Wi-Fi coverage across community and SMB. And then the final area I'll mention, hospitality. So whilst we talk about 60 million plus hotspots, we have around 90,000 hospitality venues across the globe. Again, it's a very strategic area to us. It drives a lot of usage. You'll see some information in this deck a little bit later where I talk about the brands, but it is a significant part of our business. Okay. So in-flight Wi-Fi. So along the bottom here, you can see a lot of the partners that we're working with today. So we've been working with GoGo, who has around 2,500 jets across the US, a few international, for probably in excess of 5 years now. Very successful, strong partnership for us. We also started working with Panasonic a couple of years ago, and also with Deutsche Telekom as well on transatlantic flights. You can see some of the brands above this. The thing that we did Q3 2016, we signed a deal with United Airlines. They have 750 domestic jets in the US that we're currently in the process of integrating. We plan to launch that service throughout this calendar Q2 as well. Okay, so you can see the brands that we work with. We have got a bunch of other brands currently in integration. I'll talk a bit about stuff that's coming up in terms of in-flight as well in a while. Okay, and hospitality, which I've mentioned before. So here I'm just giving you a flavor sample of some of the key brands that we have in our footprint. Rail, so across several markets, very popular here in the UK where I'm based, also in Japan on the bullet trains, in Denmark. This is another area that I'll talk about a bit later in terms of where we're trying to do more to turn on more in-train Wi-Fi. And the 60 million hotspots is, a lot of it is down to the partners that we work with. So across the various continents here, here's just some of the brands, some of the operators, the carrier partners that we work with. Okay. Now some of these relationships we've had in place for a very long time. So if I look along this list across the various continents, China Mobile, China Telecom has been an existing relationship for some years. BT has been there since about 2003. Deutsche Telekom 2006. Cloud similarly. We've worked with AT&T for a very long time. GoGo I've mentioned. Xfinity for about 3 years. That's when they, I guess, became a fully fledged Wi-Fi operator. Even in the Middle East and Africa, companies such as TTNet, that's Turk Telecom in Turkey, and Liquid Telecom have been, and Internet Solutions in South Africa have been iPass partners for many years now. Now, something that we are basically spending a lot of time on right now, and we're very excited to talk about, is in-flight Wi-Fi, and especially something that we have coming very soon, European in-flight Wi-Fi. It's the first launch of this service. We're working with Deutsche Telekom, who have a joint venture with Inmarsat. So they're investing in air-to-ground satellite technology to launch this service. We've signed our contract with Deutsche Telekom, and we're planning to launch the service hopefully in the next 30 days. It is currently, as I mentioned, the contract is signed, and we're currently at the testing phase. Okay, so where we think this will start is with Lufthansa, and then go to Austrian Airways and Eurowings, and then later in the year, British Airways is slated for launch, and then early part of 2018, we're looking at Iberia, who are part of the IAG group, as are BA and Aer Lingus. Okay. So the plan would be coming out of 2017 that we'd have in excess of 200 jets enabled on short-haul in-flight Wi-Fi services with iPass. Okay. Now I'll talk a bit more about what's coming. So not only do my team manage the existing relationships to maximize the partnership, the benefit for both us and our network suppliers, but we are looking at new footprint and what makes sense to bring into the iPass network and grow it. So I'll start with the Americas. I'll talk about Europe and Asia Pac as well, but starting with the Americas, we've identified these markets and these venue types as the stuff that will bring in the most amount of value. So if I look across the US, we are making big strides in a concerted effort to add more hospitality footprint in throughout this quarter and Q3. Also looking for some good commercial SMB public hotspots as well to bring in. And I mentioned in-flight Wi-Fi, and that we have United Airlines signed and currently in technical integration. We also have our sights on another in-flight Wi-Fi provider in the Americas. Okay. Canada. So we are starting to see some movement in that market as far as commercial grade Wi-Fi is concerned. We're currently in active discussions with a couple of companies in that region of the world, and I'm hopeful that basically in Q3 we'll be able to sign a contract for 10,000 hotspots and have those integrated in this year as well. And then we have another longer term target for a larger footprint of 70,000, but towards the end of the year. Moving on, Mexico is also a market that we see as growing. We've had existing partnerships in Mexico for some time, working with Telmex. We currently have a provider down there, a relatively new entrant to the market that's winning market share, that's currently in integration. So they should be coming on, we're hoping, inside the next quarter. But we also have another player in that market that has hotels and some public venues that we would like to bring in. Okay. Brazil is another market where we already today have quite a few hotspots in that area in the world. I believe it's in excess of 1 million hotspots today in Brazil, but we also have coverage at the airports, coverage at some of the key hotel chains. I believe Accor is the largest Brazilian hotel chain, and we're covered. But we've identified a good Wi-Fi, a good operator down there that's also doing operating Wi-Fi hotspots. So we're in an active discussion there to sign a deal and bring them into the iPass network. And then finally, I'll talk a little bit about Argentina. So the interesting thing actually about our technology, the iPass Smart Connect platform, what it allows us to do is actually see what hotspots, what networks are popular. So through, by nature of the connection manager or the SDK that we have, we're able to collect information, analytics back on what is a popular SSID, what is a popular network, and then figure out whether it makes sense for my team to effectively go out and strike a commercial relationship with somebody, or see if we can try to curate that footprint in. And we did this exercise across, when we were doing our 2017 planning, we did this across the regions, and we identified Argentina as a potentially good market. So subsequent to that, we found potentially a good partner. We're in active discussion now, trying to see if we can bring them in into the iPass footprint. Um, Covering EMEA next. So you can see some large numbers here. This is for community Wi-Fi. So currently in discussion with a large operator inside Europe that operates across several markets for 12 million hotspots, and specifically in Germany for an extra 1 million hotspots. Rail, which I talked about earlier. So we are in discussion with a global leader when it comes to rail Wi-Fi. So they operate in many relevant markets for our users, but also they are doing a lot of good work in other parts of the world. So we are trying to bring those into the footprint and potentially do a deal inside this quarter. Okay, and then finally in-flight. So in Europe, we have been talking to another in-flight Wi-Fi provider separate to the one that I mentioned in the US. They are partnered up with several airlines. I've pointed out Singapore and Japan here, so Singapore Airlines, Japan Airlines, as the potentials that we'll start with as well. They're currently going through an upgrade on their technology, but those are if we move forward, the airlines that we would start with as well. So no confirmed timescales on this one just yet. We've got to have our next conversation with them towards the end of this month. And then finally, I'll talk a little bit about Asia Pacific. So we've been working on Australia for quite some time now, trying to basically turn on more hotspots. It's been a challenging market because as far as the Wi-Fi evolution is concerned, it's not been a mature market as far as good carrier grade deployments of Wi-Fi. So yes, we have been talking to operators, waiting for that to change. We've also been looking at our curation technology, what we can do there. We've identified some targets that way, but it does seem to be, I think in 2017, we'll see the market become a lot more mature, and we'll be able to sign a couple of deals with providers in that region of the world as well. Also have some hospitality partners. So I was in Sydney at the start of the year. We met with a couple of what I would call tier 1 hospitality partners, and we're going to look at some POCs with one of them and see if we can basically get something going there. India is a market actually that has, I think in the last 12 months, come a long way as far as maturing as a Wi-Fi market is concerned. We've signed a couple of deals recently with some of the operators, leading operators there. What we expect, what we've been told, is that the rollouts will accelerate pretty quickly. So we're talking about tens of thousands of hotspots over the period of the next couple of years. We also have a couple of other prospects in the pipeline that we're hoping to bring on board this year as well. Interesting thing actually, so the couple of things happening in India that in fact some good news today. We just deployed a new provider that's rolled out. It's in around 50 mid-scale plus hotels, the likes of DoubleTree, Hiltons and so forth. And we also have another partner that basically provides the Wi-Fi for the Taj group of hotels that are owned by Tata, and we're hoping that basically those will get launched in the next couple of weeks as well. Okay. In China or Hong Kong, we're forecasting an additional 100,000 hotspots this year. Good news, we already have partnerships with the two leading operators in China. So with China Mobile, who are the largest, and also with China Telecom. But again, through using our technology, we were able to identify a third partner that we're going to be trying to get a deal signed with this year and into the network. Okay. Looking at these next few, Malaysia, Thailand, Japan, Indonesia, and Singapore, in fact. We are doing a lot of work there. I'd say a more sort of hospitality type of footprint. Some of them have gone and expanded into retail as well. But I think it's the hospitality footprint that sort of comes first for them across these markets right now. So we've signed a couple of deals with a couple of companies that are already in integration for predominantly hospitality footprint, but we've identified a couple of others as well that we would like to get in. I'll spend a bit of time now talking about Singapore, because that's been a market that we've been spending a lot of time on over the last few months. So Singapore has gone through a bit of a change, in recent years, where there was a relatively, I guess, mature Wi-Fi market, but it went through a government initiative, which did not, I guess, to put it bluntly, go too well. Subsequently, what we found is that a lot of the Wi-Fi has effectively is needed to be rebuilt, for want of a better phrase. So the good thing is that we have a lot of existing partnerships with the operators. So we've been having to, polish up the integrations with those, with free partners essentially. And it looks like we'll be bringing in another 350 high footfall hotspots. So we're talking about malls and marinas in the next couple of weeks through one of the key operators. We already have the airports. We already have a glut of hotels in Singapore, but we are also working with two of the other operators who have several thousand hotspots, and we would like to get those inside the next quarter as well. Okay. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. I think we can open it up now for questions. So let me see what's come through. So we have a question from Sean Lee from HP. He's asking, what is the network growth strategy? So the network growth strategy comprises a couple of things. We use our historical data. So we know, for example, what venues, what markets basically drive usage, and where our customers are going to. So we use that as one thing, to help us develop the strategy. We also use other stuff. So we try to assess our penetration. So when it comes to things like airports, hotels specifically, I can talk about where, for example, we buy something like a travel database from, say, Smith's Travel Research. We try to assess our penetration, try to figure out in which regions we are strong, which regions we are okay, which regions we need to do more work in, across which brands as well. And hence that helps us, develop a strategy for we need to pursue these brands in these markets. And we can do that across airports as well. And in-flight Wi-Fi will carry out market assessments. And I think the other thing, I think I've mentioned it a couple of times throughout this call, this presentation, our technology is helping us understand, where our users are going to, what are potentially high value networks, whether we need to basically have commercial agreements with what's identified, or whether we can try to curate footprint in as well. So it's not one answer, it's a combination of the different things, through using historical data, using our technology, trying to understand what our penetration is into certain markets and into certain venue types. Okay. Yes, a question from Andy Darby from Executive Travel. So yes, the presentation can be made available to all participants and the recording. Question from Adlan Salah from Mavridis he's asking, can we talk about Hotspot 2.0? So, good question. So, yes, we can. So, a lot of where we see this, we put this in the, I guess, the categorization of network evolution. So, a lot of what iPass has done historically has been related to a connection manager. and we have an SDK. And we don't operate networks ourselves, but we basically integrate with 160 plus network operators, as I mentioned. And where we see this, our part in Hotspot 2.0 plus, is by working with a lot of our network partners, so that basically we start to bring those networks on board. So we are, over the next year, 2 years, going to be aggressively on a program to bring those networks into the iPass network. So we have a traditional protocol today, very much. It's something called WISPAR. It's a technical standard, and we're now looking at the various authentication methods, such as EAP-TTLS, EAP-SIM, EAP-KA, and now in conversations with our partners to basically try and integrate those in. Okay. Question from Sean: what do you mean by Wi-Fi first, not, if I can get the full question, Wi-Fi only? Yeah, so, I mean, iPass, when we evolved to broadband technologies, you can see from what we've talked about here today, extensively around Wi-Fi hotspots. I think what we're walking towards is a period where we don't necessarily want to just hang our hat on Wi-Fi. We see convergence happening, so whether it be cellular, whether it be satellite, I think people essentially just want to be connected and aren't particularly bothered about what the underlying bearer is, whether it is Wi-Fi, whether it is cellular. So we'll find a way where we can utilize, where we can leverage different access technologies, but as far as the user's concerned, it won't really matter. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, then feel free to contact myself or your iPass account manager. We have one more. Sorry. So Sean is asking, when do we think the convergence will happen on the iPass platform? So it's a good question. I think where we're probably looking to next is LTE. 5G is, I still think, years away. I'm not sure. I don't believe we have it roadmapped just yet for 2017. I'd probably consider it something more of the 2018 initiative, but it's something we're certainly thinking about now. Okay, and that's okay. Let's see if there are any more questions coming through. Thank you, Sean. Okay. All right. I think we have dried up out of questions. I'll give it another 30 seconds, and then I think we are okay. Okay, very good. All right. Well, I'd like to thank you again for your time today. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact myself or your iPass account manager, and have a good day.